You're listening to the We Are Libertarians Podcast Network. Find all of our shows at wearelibertarians.com. You're listening to the We Are Libertarians Network. Learn more at wearelibertarians.com.
Welcome to the Boss Hog of Liberty podcast. This is episode number 406 of East Centralia's favorite podcast. Jeremiah Morrell here, joined by assistant video producer and audio engineer Sara Morrell.
Hello.
No Zach Burcham tonight. He's off coaching middle schoolers. So Sara has volunteered.
That pays a lot more than this job, so I'm glad he's having a good time there.
You're getting paid in bottled water tonight, and you're excited about
Woo-hoo.
it. On my left is the incredible Mr. Bones, Adam Harcourt. Welcome.
Howdy.
Glad you're here.
Glad to be here.
Easy drive over from the
Easy.
north side?
Yes.
No problems?
No problems.
I-70 was paved and polite?
Yes. Nobody was on it.
That's great. Today's show, our plan is we're going to be sitting down with a couple gentlemen, Jonathan Lawler and Greg Martz, who are going to be telling us about the potential of a Henry County data center. A lot of information going around about the project in the community, and we got a chance in a long form to sit down, talk about it, hear what the project would be, and Bones and I are going to ask questions, and hopefully we're going to all learn a little bit here and see what happens. So this show is about our lives in rural Indiana. We're here to push your boundaries and make you think as individuals. Sometimes we'll provoke you, other times we'll make you laugh, but hopefully you'll always learn something new. Did not do a Patreon this week. Bones, you were held up. There was a problem at 106th and Ditch.
Yes. Actually, 106th in town.
Okay,
really.
What's our excuse? We got to have a good excuse because we didn't do a Patreon.
I was heading back to the building, and I saw 465 was a mess, like usual. So I thought I'll get off at 106th and take it all the way over to Zionsville Road. Until we got to Township, there was a car that did not want to go through the roundabout. So me and...
Did you give it a little nudge?
We did give it me and 7 Forest Planks wannabes gave it a nudge in their Gucci loafers. Had to push it to the Carmel Fire Department, about a half block away.
Uphill the whole way, I'm sure.
Uphill both ways,
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, thanks for doing your civic duties.
You're welcome.
And getting that done and getting here. So there is no Patreon this week. We apologize for that. I was going to give Bones a hard time about his fantasy football team and the first year he'd been in the Boss Hog Fantasy League, but we'll just do that later. This is a bonus edition. We told everybody last week we weren't going to be here this week, and yet here we are.
Yep.
So don't get mad at us.
We're kind of like herpes.
Patreon. But if you do the Patreon, you get a special Facebook group. You get the super access. You get the show notes dropped in ahead of time. That's where Bones got them this
Yes.
week. That was his access that was provided to them. So
They came Wednesday.
Yeah, they were early, super early. Thanks so much to those that do support us and get us on the air each and every week. Who are those people?
We had Jonathan Phillips over at Wetzel Ford in Richmond, Indiana. Blake Reese over at Varsity Outfitters. Thomas Oakes at Walnut Ridge RV. We got Pops Recycle down in Rush County.
Yep.
And then I have been told not to say we are cleaning dead people.
That's right.
Yes.
It's the monuments.
It's the monuments.
Moral
we're cleaning.
monument cleaning.
The monument.
Yes.
Yeah, you got a stern talking to on Saturday night over that one.
Mama was mad at me.
I saw the fear in your eyes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we thank them very much. You can join Patreon at any level, help us get on the air. But the folks at $50 or more a month, your business or your little special thing gets mentioned at the top of every episode. Business is out of the way. Let's get to know these guys a little bit. Greg, you are a Henry County native. You live in Springport.
Yep, that's exactly right.
All right. Glad to have you here. You want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I grew up actually in Selma. My wife grew up in Strawn. And so we moved halfway in between both of our parents is how we ended up in Springport.
She was from Henry County, and she said, you're moving here.
That's exactly right. It's exactly what happened. And so that was when I was 21. We've known each other since 5th grade, and so we got married early, and so we've lived in Henry County since then.
All right. And then Jonathan, you are you're the agent in this.
I would say more advocate.
The advocate.
Yeah.
All right. And tell us about you. so the audience can understand?
So I'm from Hancock County. I have I started a nonprofit farm in 2016, and for some odd reason that went viral and worldwide, and I got to go places no farmer should go. That being said, I made friends with folks like Mike Rowe and Craig Culver from Culver Restaurants, and they all said you should really be telling other farmer stories and doing what you can to advocate. So we make films that are ag centric, as well as we advocate for rural America as well as agriculture in general. So,
All right. Well, very good. Glad you're here. Want to learn today, Jonathan, about what the Henry County Technology Park is, what you're talking about trying to bring to the area.
Well, I think probably the best way to describe it is to give you a little bit of history on how we got here. So, I've been doing development for about 17 years now, and this has been all the way around the state. And there was a bill that was passed at the state legislature here that you all might have talked about. It was Senate Bill 1. I think it's got a different name now, but that's what it was being called when it was being passed. And so most of my clients are municipalities and governments in Indiana. And so I've started hearing about how this is going to cause some issues for schools. And I live in Blue River School District. And so what my original idea actually was to try and come up with an idea, essentially just to reinvest in my own community and try and come up with something that would support our school system. And what my idea is there's this large gas line. It's owned by A&R that I think probably most everybody in Henry County knows about because it literally goes right through the middle of our county. And one end of it is up in Canada, the other end of it is down in Louisiana. And so I think to most of us, it's a liability, something that no one has liked because it has this massive easement going right through our county. But what I was thinking, though, is that this could become a massive asset if we just start thinking of it differently. We've got all this transient gas just flowing underneath our feet. And so I actually talked to some pipeline folks about it, and what they told me is that Indiana is known as the sewer of the gas industry, and the reason being is that interesting thing I didn't know before this was the gas flows both ways. It's not like it's going from Canada to Louisiana or the other way around. It's actually going from both directions, and we're right in the middle. And so what they were saying is that we've got the best pressures that you could possibly have because of that, and we don't use it. And so what my thought is that
we use it, but we don't use it in an industrial sense.
That's right. Yeah, from their perspective, like we're a very small user. Yeah, that's right.
I assume Henry County, that the peaking plant that we have in CAD is on this gas line.
That's exactly right. So if you were to take it, so the site we're looking at is right on the corner of I-70 and State Road 109. If you think about that as one of the points, and Caddis, the peaking plant being another, that will show you how it cuts through our county. It's a straight line from there, from the northeast to the Caddis plant. It's exactly right.
Okay. So the reason that you're looking at something that's on that line is that this is a data center. Data centers are known to be large consumers of electricity, but this is designed to have its own self-contained power generating station.
That's what my thought was, and what sent me down a rabbit hole that has been a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week thought process for the last year and a half now, because it's just one of those things, like when I first started thinking about it, you just can't get it out of your mind. And I just kept thinking there's got to be a reason why this hasn't already happened. That's really actually where it all started. And so I just started asking questions. The first being calling the gas pipeline, asking if it was actually available. But the thought eventually turned into exactly what you're saying. It probably took me 6 months to get there, but it was really that maybe this isn't a liability at all. Maybe it's something that we could be utilizing. And the idea being that instead of using grid power, which is quickly running out because there's so many power users out there, instead of doing that, why wouldn't we use this gas and turn it into electricity right here in Henry County, right at the site of something being built? And this thought process was all happening at the same time that, these big companies like Google and Amazon and so forth started building these data centers. So we're definitely not a data center builder, not by any means. What I've been doing for 20 years, though, is building infrastructure. And so I understand that part of it. And what my thought is that, well, if we can build the power, then we'll be able to bring a user to Henry County.
So in my day job is kind of in the construction world. So a lot of these things are conversations that we've had on the show, and we've heard in objection to this particular land use across the Midwest, or, as data centers have become super popular in the last 3 to 5 years, a lot of these conversations happen in each community. They are said to be users of significant amount of water, right? That's the other concern, is that a project like this is going to be a huge consumer of East Central Indiana's water. The LEAP district up in Boone County was said that they were, they're piping, I think, water down from Lafayette to Boone County for the LEAP district. Are there protections in place for your project to make sure that the folks of Wayne Township aren't going to be void of water?
Yeah, it's a great question. And really, we should be worried about those things, because there's examples of data center projects that do exactly what you're talking about. And so what I've learned over time is that what usually happens is that a company will want to come into a certain area. Usually they won't want to give up their name. So they'll have some single purpose entity so that their name isn't revealed. And then they'll try and zone a property around their use. Meaning that, they're literally straight forward influencing the customized zoning of that property for their usage. And what that does is, one, it builds a lot of distrust among the community, but even worse than that is like, when you can customize zoning to yourself, then all of a sudden it allows for those kinds of things that you were just talking about to happen, meaning that they can do cooling systems that sometimes use tens of millions of gallons a day, just as one example. And to me, that's probably the most egregious thing that we all need to be careful about and need to be making sure doesn't happen. There's other examples too, like noise, light. All of these things can be mitigated if you do it properly. But the issue is if you have the person that's trying to mold the zoning around their own usage, then obviously they're looking for as much flexibility as possible. And so what our idea is instead of doing that, instead of finding a user and trying to create zoning around them, is we're trying to create zoning around feedback that we're getting from the community. And all the subjects we're hearing is exactly what you're saying. And that in that way, we can now literally put in the code a customized zoning for that site, so that none of those egregious things you're talking about can be done. And once the zoning is in place, that it cannot be undone.
We Bones, you're familiar with the idea of NIMBY, right? Not in my backyard.
Yeah.
We've gotten really good at it here.
Mm-hmm.
I made a list of projects.
You think you're good at it? Come down to Rush County.
Well, I included some of yours in here too. But we have, in the last 15 years, we turned away a biofuels project that was going to be in the north side of Newcastle. We told Milestone they can't build an asphalt plant here. Waltz Kiln in Rushville, you guys said no to that one.
Doesn't surprise me.
That was in 2018. That was going to be, they were going to refine some battery. I think that was a rough project, but that one got turned away. And then we have had a changing of the governments here over solar and wind power in the last decade as well, with people saying no. So that political pressure has been there in this community. And I'm kind of going down the list of things that they have talked about and said, hey, these are reasons why not. The next question, I guess, is what physically does this look like? What's the visual appearance of a data center? What's it going to look like? How large is the site? And are people going to see it and interact with it?
Yeah, great question. So the building would be made of concrete precast and painted concrete precast. So it's actually a very nice looking building, but it's would have like an industrial type look to it.
Going to look like a warehouse.
Yeah, it really would look like a warehouse, I guess you want to think that. What will be much different than a warehouse, though, is you won't have any docks on it, because this does not generate any sort of semi-traffic. What this is housing is essentially the best technology in the history of the world. I mean, it literally is the fastest computers in the world, and so the idea here is that you're building a box that houses this, it keeps it safe, and then you have usually 35 to 75 employees per building. And I think what would probably fit on this property is 5 buildings, if that gives you a feel for where this would be going. What can happen, though, is, and what you've seen in some of those stories that you were mentioning earlier, is that you'll see these placed like next to a neighborhood or something. There's no berming, those sorts of things. And if you're not paying attention to that, then you can hear noise from, diesel generators, as an example, when they run. It's not always, but when they do run, you can get light from the parking lot, things that you would expect, but they do nothing to mitigate. And so that's what we're trying to do now, is put those kind of guardrails in place in the zoning to keep that from happening. So what will end up happening if the zoning that we're talking about goes through, there would actually be 8-foot berms around the entire site. And so you could still see the building if you want. If you go to the entries, you can look in and be able to see it. But the idea being that what you would actually see at this site would be a nice landscape berm that hopefully just makes it feel like it's not there. If you don't want it to feel like it's there, that's hopefully what the feel will be.
How many acres are we talking about?
Its site in its entirety is 586 acres. The reason that it is that size is because we're committing to doing 300-foot setbacks, which is about 6 times what would be in the industrial code currently. And that would be to put that berming in place. And then within that would be a detention system that would take care of, water and storm. And so what ends up happening is about 40% of the site doesn't actually end up getting developed. It would be either green or a pond. And then the rest of it would be the buildings and the infrastructure.
So the intention is to be set up in a way that other developments can still take place around this. It doesn't mean that once this is here, that only like projects can go in. So if your center gets built on the 500 acres, neighboring parcels could still be developed for retail or for housing or other developments.
Yeah, I would say this is just purely my opinion now. This is just gut feeling. My gut feeling is that there probably would not be much more development than this. The reason being is the reason that this site is so special is because it's bounded by State Road 109 to the east, I-70 to the south, and then the gas line that we were talking about earlier. There's actually 3 gas lines that bound it on the west. So it creates a triangle. That's why this site is so special. When you go beyond that intersection, most of that is zone agriculture, and I would imagine, this is again just my opinion, that it would remain agriculture. I really don't see what would make the rest of the sites around it grow any further than it is. And really what the idea here is that we're trying to put as much property tax on this one site so that further development doesn't need to happen. So we don't need to become a Mount Comfort or what, again, not that that's a problem for them, but I'm just thinking that is probably not the vision for this town.
And that's another one of the questions that I think the audience is going to have, is that we've watched, development along the I-70 corridor continue to slide to the east. Knightstown is very drivable to downtown Indianapolis or to the north side of Indianapolis. So as Hamilton County grows or Indianapolis grows, you would suspect that corridor at 70 and 109 is probably going to be where you start to see some housing development happen. Mm-hmm. So that's the question, I guess, that I have is this a good neighbor? If, we see the number of building permits that are happening in Hancock County in the last few years. As that growth continues to come east, is that going to prevent Henry County from getting that tax base, those lives, those families, those folks that are going to feed into, Charles A. Beard schools? Are we still going to be able to build those houses in the next decade if this project exists?
Yeah. Well, I would say a couple things. One is the main reason that I feel like it hasn't developed on that site right now is simply because of utilities. There's no water or wastewater. So part of this project will actually be bringing the water and wastewater to the site, which we would have to completely pay for that. But the great thing about that is it now opens that entire side of I-70 with water and wastewater. So to the extent that would be the vision, those utilities will be there because of this project, and it could make that happen. I do think that there's a type of data center that you would not want to be neighbors with. I wouldn't want to be neighbors with some of them. That's why we're wanting to do the zoning the way we are, to ensure that it's the type of buildings that would keep that from happening.
Well, and if we look at rural communities in general, they're not exactly ecstatic when they see a new subdivision. Data centers do not promote that type of growth. We'd love to say that this thing will bring, thousands of jobs, so they don't do that. For a rural community, being able to partner with a developer like Greg, the one thing they don't want is they don't want a bunch of new faces, because when you do, I can tell you personally from Hancock County is not just changing based on warehouses. It's political, and its value system is also changing with all the new growth. And that's something that a lot of us that have lived there, that's not something we're very happy with. And that's, when you look at a suburban tax base, it's almost a wash, because, you're getting that tax revenue, but they're also utilizing all the services that tax revenue has to pay for. So data centers, in my mind, from a rural standpoint, are one of those things that it brings in a lot of revenue without an influx of a ton of new people. It will bring in some new folks, but it's not going to change your town's demographic. It's not going to change your town's, how they vote, how they worship, all the things that is very, very important to small town America. And I think that's why data centers are such a good partner when they're developed, like when someone like Greg and Chris get involved. That's really good.
Greg, are there examples of data centers like this that have been developed in other areas?
The best, I would say, if anyone here locally wants to see them, the best place to go would be New Albany, Ohio. Now, it's about a 3-hour drive. This would be very near Columbus. What's great about it is that you can see, I think, something like 15 of them. Their vision is definitely not what I would see for our county. But what is interesting about it, though, is you can see every brand out there, how they do it differently. You'll see some that have done the berming that we're talking about. You'll see some that haven't done it. And so you'll really get a feel for, for all the different ways of doing it. It's amazing to see what they've done there. Their tax base is incredible, so you can imagine what their downtown and roads. I mean, they have the best sidewalks, roads, and curbs you've ever seen. Again, I don't think that's the vision here necessarily, but it would still be a great trip for someone if they wanted to see it, because just because you can see so many different ways that you can put these together.
Tell me how long you want your tax abatement for.
Well,
because when a major project like this comes in, this is the deal we make, is we say, okay, you can locate here, but we're not going to make you pay taxes for the first 10 to 15 years. You create this many jobs.
Yep. I have very strong feelings about this, because my thought is that if we are not receiving tax revenues, then there's no reason to do these kinds of projects. So to me, this is the number one issue why I wanted to do this project, is to help bring tax revenues to our county. And if we're not going to be collecting taxes, then why would we even be doing a project like this? And I believe, I actually didn't know the commissioners before going after this project, but I've met them through it, and I believe that they're completely on board with that statement as well. Now, when you're talking about abatements, what you got to be careful about is there's all kinds of ways that you can collect taxes. And so, there's the basic way of just basically not abating and collecting taxes that way. But there's actually another beneficial way. This gets complicated with the way that schools receive their revenues, that it can only grow so quickly. Even if our assessed value grows, their budget can only grow so quickly. One way you can mitigate that is by actually doing a payment in lieu of taxes. And that's what I would be a big fan of. I think either way is fine. Not doing an abatement is perfectly fine, but a negotiated payment in lieu of taxes would allow that fee to potentially be more than what they would be collecting in taxes, but it also means that we could send it to the schools immediately rather than being subject to those issues.
So where does the money come from for the project? Is there an investor at this point that's backing is that you've talked about needing to bring water and wastewater up to the project site? You've obviously got the construction costs of the building. What are we looking at to make that happen?
Well, this brings up a really good point that we haven't talked about yet, which is, so when we're talking about doing the zoning, I was mentioning before that we're trying to get it in place before we have a user. Well, what that means is at this point, we haven't had a single conversation with any of these companies. And we don't want to have any of those conversations until after the zoning is in place, which is still be a couple months down the road. So what our thought process is that we get the zoning in place, we've established those guardrails, we have those conversations. What would happen next is that whoever it is, whatever company it would be, would have to then submit a plan and show exactly what they would want to build. So we would not touch the land at all until that would be approved. And the reason for that is really simple, which is, just as an example, the berms alone are tens of millions of dollars. We would not want to invest that and then not be able to find a user, just as an example, or find someone and they're not complying with the zoning that we put in place. So we simply are not going to do anything to that land until all of that is completely done. And that way, if this doesn't work, if this whole vision does not work, then it will just continue being a farm. And we would not have messed that up.
So what kind of timeline are you guys on for this? Right now, you're in it sounds like you're still developing your project, but you're also kind of trying to work with the public to get an understanding of what the vision is. How soon do you think this is actually turning into a reality?
It is definitely happening now. I mean, the processes are happening now, but what we're really trying to do is add more meetings so that people have more ways of getting their thoughts out. If you were just to follow completely just county and state law, you would have one public hearing with your plan commission. You'd have another one with the county, and we still have to do those. But those would be the only two times that the public would get information. We were originally going to try and do the plan commission public hearing in September, but we've had tons of one-on-one meetings. But then we tried to do an open house, and we had hundreds of people come to the open house. And then we've done other smaller versions of that with the neighborhood that's close there. We're going to do another open house now again, because again, we just want to get the information out. It just doesn't feel like having 2 town hall meetings is enough. And so we pushed it back from September so we could fit a few more of those in and kind of get more information. So we're looking at the plan commission in October. And then we would start having the conversations then with these companies probably around Thanksgiving. And I would say, it would only take a couple months to really find out if this vision's going to work or not. I really think by spring we're gonna know if it's going to work.
So is there a draft zoning ordinance from the planning commission or from the zoning administrator now, or that folks are looking at or reviewing, or is that still conceptual?
That's what we're forming now. So this is a really important question to talk about. So the zoning that is in our current county, it works fine for a lot of places. There is no established zoning that would work at all on this site. For a lot of reasons, like the berming we were talking about, there's no way to require that in current zoning. So what we're doing is a customized zoning called plan unit development that is being created right now, and then that needs to be completed and filed 30 days prior to the plan commission meeting. So we're taking as much feedback as we can to try and put that together. And then we'll file that as soon as we feel like it's in its final form.
You talked about maybe 300 jobs on the site, essentially, once it's up and running. Is there an industry standard for what those pay and the tax base that the income tax base that God knows we got LOIT coming, right? We got more local option income taxes coming. Are those $40,000 a year jobs, $100,000 a year jobs? What kind of folks are working in a data center? If you look
at what these companies have agreed to in the past when they're trying to get incentives from other cities and so forth, the agreed upon number of jobs per building seems to be 35. what we've been finding is that the real number seems to be around 50. We've heard some people say 75. What they seem to agree to as a minimum guaranteed we'll have is 35 per building. And we're thinking this could be somewhere between 4, 5, 6 buildings, something like that. So that's where these numbers are coming from. The salaries can range from probably the lower, 40,000 to very, very high. The averages that they seem to be committing to is 85,000. But again, that's an average. What you can look at this as good or bad, I guess, but I look at it as good is that this will create many types of jobs. I mean, it'll create janitorial and landscaping jobs, those sorts of things. It'll create mid-tier electrical jobs. And then there are the very high-paying, jobs that are essentially specialist type jobs. So it'll be a wide range and a wide amount, but the average they seem to be committing to is 85,000.
Yeah, like a Tech 1 is like 92. A Tech 1 is 72, which is entry level. Then like a Tech 3 is in the 90s. Their security also pays very well, and they're looking for typically former military and law enforcement folks to fill those roles
For full-time on-site security.
Yeah.
Obviously, they don't want folks getting into the buildings.
Correct. Yeah.
My experience or the history I have looking at data centers or Bitcoin mining operations from 10 years ago or so when they started is they were these facilities that produced a lot of heat. And so they were looking at old aluminum factories, those sorts of things where they had buildings that were designed for that. These aren't going to look like that. You're not going to have smokestacks. This is going to be looking and visually similar to a warehouse.
Yeah, I think that's a great way of looking at it. So the heat, the issue that you just brought up, that is the same thing as the water issue, because what the reason water is used is to cool off these buildings, and there's methods where there's tons of water used if you use a water cooling method to do that. So that problem that you're talking about is exactly what leads to that conversation about water. But there's other ways of doing it, which is air cooling, which is the way we like to do it. And so you're exactly right. That's an issue, and but that's how you solve it.
So it's like a heat pump essentially, and that's why you use electricity.
Yeah.
So it's like running air conditioning.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's just it's a bigger version of that, but it's the exact same thing. Yeah.
You educated, Bones?
I'm getting there. I didn't realize all this was like how long it took. I didn't realize all this.
And just for clarification, the data or the Bitcoin mining farms and a data center are actually two very different things. A lot of people will confuse those because they'll say, well, I live next to, especially in Canada for some reason. I didn't realize there were that many mining farms up there, but
Tariffs weren't a thing then.
yeah. Well, and
Now we can't even send butter across the border.
but they are quite different in noise and how they operate.
So we talked about some of the utilities. Electricity, you're going to self-generate on site. So you're using gas that's going through the neighborhood. You're going to use municipal water from Knightstown is the vision, bringing water from Knightstown up to the site. And that's going to be a closed loop system. So eventually it's just normal, anything that similar to what other users would have. You're going to tie into wastewater from the city or from the town of Knightstown as well.
That's correct.
What other utilities are there? Yeah, I guess the data connection. Is this Starlink? Is it you have fiber that's on the interstate already? How's the data?
It's fiber, and that's another thing that I don't think many of us know about this because I sure didn't. But we actually have great fiber connectivity in this county, which is amazing to me because I have no internet at all where I live. We actually use Starlink at our house because of that. But that's another reason why the site is so good, at least we think it will be, is because of the fiber connectivity. So that's a key one.
Producer Zach, welcome to the show, man.
Yeah.
You were out coaching kids and you snuck in the front door.
Yeah. I didn't want to walk in the back door because then I'd walk in the camera.
Have you been paying attention? You listening? You hearing?
I was just, as much as I could. I started catching notifications. I was like, what's going on? I was like, oh, wait a minute. They're having a show. So I swung by.
Well, glad you're here. How many construction jobs is this going to have?
Well, it'll be a lot. So the construction, how we envision it is that we would be doing the site work, which is again is my bread and butter, is doing the infrastructure. So like when you're talking about the water, wastewater, all of that. That's our bread and butter. The building itself, they usually have a contractor, so they'll provide their own project manager and superintendent, and then almost all of them use union labor, and then that way that they can bring in local union labor. It will be hundreds. I mean, it will definitely be hundreds of construction jobs.
The dirt contract alone sounds like it's pretty significant.
Oh yeah, yeah, no doubt about it. Yep.
And then as far as the building, if it's going to look similar to a warehouse, then you probably got like 25 or 30 foot tall tilt up wall panels going up, something like that.
Yeah, I would say probably what's normal would be 40 feet. I think it's a good way of thinking about it. Some of them are smaller and some of them are taller. I would say a good average to think about would be 40 feet.
So it's going to look like essentially a 4-story building.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Man, that's the questions I've got. What am I leaving out? What else do we need to be thinking about that I've not covered?
Well, I mean, we're seeing a lot of information out there about, the assumptions of what this actually will look like. And I can tell you when I started working with Greg, I actually didn't know a lot about data centers. The Hancock County project that a lot of people focus on here, that, it was kicked out of Hancock County, which is not true. It was actually the developer themselves are the ones who pulled out.
When pitchforks come running at you, eventually you run away. I've seen it happen a time or two.
Yeah. I can say as a farmer who has a neighborhood next to me, I would take a data center any day of the week, because I have strange dogs show up at least once a week.
Snotty goes kids.
Yeah. Kids riding 4-wheelers through very expensive specialty crops. That's not great.
No.
And they're hard to catch. 2 years ago, I had cattle run through my north fence because the neighborhood evidently got together, pooled their money, and decided to put on a fireworks show for the 4th of July, which that's their property. I'm all for that. Let me know so that I can put my cattle in the barn, because typically noises like that don't scare my cows, but I can tell you it was shaking my house. So yeah, they were horrified. People assuming, and that's what I've noticed. And Knightstown is a place that, even though I travel the country, as a farm, I still do business in Knightstown. I mean, I occasionally go to the livestock auction there. I go to the Kent feeds that's there. And I think that the people there, when we're on the ground talking to them, because we've went into town and we've spoken to people, and they say, well, why can't there be a grocery store? Or why can't there be this? Why can't there be that? We don't even have an ambulance service. Well, the reason they don't have an ambulance service is because there is an attitude of not in my backyard. Something has to pay for those services. Something has to, if they want those type of amenities, there has to be a major payer there somewhere, whether it's a large population, which is something they don't want, or some type of development like this. Something people don't understand either is we're talking about farmland, and we hear, we're losing farmland. I agree. I mean, that is a concern. But again, going back to Hancock County, I don't see pitchforks when a new subdivision goes up. And subdivisions are taking up a lot more real estate, ag real estate, than any other type of development. And we need to look at that and go, I think, okay, my grandfather, in the 1950s, what he was producing, the farmers today, I outproduce him by almost 380%.
Yep. Your equipment's better. You're getting more. You're getting more yield off of an acre than they did in 1960.
I mean, I have sensors in the ground in my field that will tell me what my soil moisture and temperature is. Because I'm a specialty crop grower, I need to know those things throughout the season, not just when I plant. And just the ability that we have now to produce food versus the ability we had back in the day, we can afford. Rural counties can afford to carve out sections of their county to allow for development that actually helps in a way, throws a lifeline to towns like Knightstown or the surrounding areas in the county. So, and that's one of the big things we've heard. We ran a survey. We found that, conserving farmland is important. And we see this all over the country. There's nowhere I went in the country where somebody's been like, where people have been happy about any type of development when it comes to rural, the rural folks. But at the same time, I've watched towns that just have, withered away, and they're going, the interstates are part of what did it. And now an opportunity like this can bring in the type of tax revenue they need without the massive population.
What are we talking about for this site, and what we expect it to produce for tax revenue? Is there? I guess there's probably a math calculation, right? It's an investment of, say, $200 million on the site or whatever it is, and you've got 2% a year off of that number, something in that range is what you would expect to have for taxes.
Yeah, the investment here will be, if it becomes a data center, it would be billions for sure. I mean, just the buildings would be, if it were developed, like I was saying before, 4 to 6 building, it would be over $1 billion worth of investment in the buildings, and the equipment inside would be way more than that. I mean, it could be $5 billion. But the issue, though, is, well, again, it depends on how you look at things. Either the issue or the good thing is that the state has essentially said that we can't tax the equipment inside. Now, that's the reason why a lot of data centers are looking at Indiana now, is because of that. So you can look at that as a very good thing, or you can look at it from the revenue side of the local government. It's a bad thing because we're not receiving those revenues. So I think it's just like you all are talking about, it becomes a balance. And that's where I was getting at with that minimum taxpayer agreement or pilot, is that overrides those automatic abatements that are at the state. That it could be negotiated, and then they're paying a certain amount no matter how much is invested. I think that's the real key in this whole thing, is to make sure that they're paying their fair share, and that's the way to do it.
The conversation that you're alluding to, Jonathan, about, saying ag focused as a county versus, I think there's a freight train coming for Western Henry County of population. It's going to reach us
Eventually, yeah. Because it's already hit us in Hancock County.
Right.
So.
And it's the next logical spot. And you're going to see that, in particularly if you add water and sewer to that interchange, and probably at some point we're going to be done with road construction and get to 3 lanes on I-70. Corey Criswell told us that in his meeting that was in Washington this week, that was allegedly not to talk about redistricting. He was talking about I-70 with INDOT, and INDOT's needs with the federal highway folks. He swears that's why they went and talked. He wrote it in black and white. So I assume that we're going to get that done. So we're going to have 3 lanes of good roads taking us from Indianapolis to Henry County. You're going to see folks that want to live there. And whether that's on 40 in that corridor, or up, at 70 and 109, somewhere in that pocket, you're going to see some major housing built in the next decade. I think the big conversation that folks have to have is, how do we find projects that invest in our community that we can cohabitate with? And it sounds like this is one that, listen, if you can live next to CarQuest on the south side of Newcastle, or if you can deal with the Crown in town, then you're probably going to be okay with a project like this. That sounds like what I'm hearing. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think everything you said is true. I think the whole key is that when it's done in a purposeful way, and not not just on accident. And that's really, to me, what zoning is about. Zoning is not about trying to steal someone's land rights or those sorts of things, which sometimes it's used that way, in my opinion. But it's about doing growth on purpose. And so I think that hopefully what we're doing is setting a precedent here, that you can do that. You can decide what is good for your town and for that area or any area of our county, and do it on purpose by making these customized zoning processes. And I hope that is really what is the main thing that comes out of this, is that that becomes the precedent, not only for our county, but hopefully all the counties across the state.
So the process right now and where things are is that you have a you have no data center zoning ordinance in the county. So we are developing a data center ordinance right now, and probably going to see a public hearing and an adoption by the planning commission is the process. And it could die at any point, right? But you go from having a hearing to a vote by the planning commission, and then it goes to the county commissioners for them to accept the planning commission. And then once that's done, then this project has the government permitting in place to be able to go forth and have a developer come in and move forward.
Yep. Everything you said is exactly right, with just one minor adjustment, which is what we're creating is not a data center zoning. What we're creating is a customized zoning for that site.
So it's not, we couldn't say, okay, we've got this in place now. Now we want to do one of these in Mount Summit or in New Lisbon. This is only for this 500-acre parcel.
That's exactly right. And I think that's a key distinction and I really think that that's the way that we as a county should be moving forward with future projects too, is that then that way we don't have sweeping ordinance changes. We're customizing zoning for that site and for the needs of the neighbors in that area. Because what we're doing in that site may not be appropriate in other places. In fact, I know for sure it wouldn't be appropriate in other places. If we were in the middle of Newcastle, you would not want these giant setbacks and you would not want these berms, because you would just never be able to develop it. That's right. There wouldn't be anything left. Exactly right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm ready to move into final thoughts, guys. If there's if there's more, do you want to tell us a little bit more about your farm, Jonathan, and how folks can support
me?
Yeah.
So my sons actually do most of the farming now because of the things I have to do.
Death and taxes, I guess.
Well, telling the story of the American farmer is super important. We have a show that's coming out on Amazon called My Farm, My Story, and it is absolutely awesome. It's also going to be on PBS, but it's about
sorry.
Farmers.
Earmuffs. I've heard bad things about the future of PBS guys.
Just to give you an example, there's 3 different that we're in the process of. We're in post production with 3 of the farmers we're telling a story about. The first one is a guy by the name of Ed Bell, who's not too far from here.
Ed's a friend. Strawberry farmer,
Yep.
Wayne County, Indiana.
Yep. And he
inundated by penguins. I know.
Yeah, he was a victim of a violent crime attack. He farms 30 acres of strawberries. When we went to his farm, I remember looking and seeing everything he had to go through, and I was just like, "Yeah, you are 10 times a better person than I am." And then we have a young man by the name of Jackson that is in Shelby County. And Jackson's lifelong dream was to take over his family's farm. His dad and his grandfather were working on their legacy to do that. But unfortunately, Jackson lost his grandfather and his father within 6 weeks of each other. So the family was planning other things, because that's a huge loss. He's 22 years old. A lot of 22-year-olds are playing Xbox, and Jackson decided, I'm going to keep farming. And he's in his 2nd season of successfully farming that ground. And then the third one that I'm allowed to talk about is Kyle Albertson of Albertson Drone Service. I'm not sure the disease he was born with. I can't say it. It's really long, but he's very confined to a wheelchair. But his hand-eye coordination is unbelievable. And now he runs a drone service, so he's still able to, because he wanted to be part of agriculture, and he's doing it through that. And it's an amazing stuff. And every time I talk to him, he sends me pictures of his crashed drones. And I'm just like, he's just, yeah.
Poor Zach lost his drone at the Moreland Free Fair a couple weeks ago. He's still emotionally crying.
Dropped into a bean field.
Yeah. That's the thing. As a filmmaker, we have drones. Are you familiar with the DJI Inspire?
Yes.
So we had an Inspire 2 that clipped a high power. It was being flown by sight instead of looking at the monitor, and the operator clipped a high power tension line because he thought the drone was a lot further away from it than it was, and It had a very expensive camera on it. And Kyle's just like, you know what? No big deal. I'll repair it, and we're off to the races in 2 days. So yeah, that's the type of stuff that we like to cover.
Is there a target date for when the project comes out?
So late winter. We have
this winter coming out.
We're actually sponsored. It's one of our sponsors that we're allowed to talk about is Indiana Pork is sponsoring it. And there will be some pork farmers, some beef farmers. So yeah, it's a really cool story. I would not have ever chosen to go into this because I didn't go to film school. I knew nothing about it. But when Mike Rowe came to my farm, and we spent a couple days together, we actually got to know his production team really well. And my youngest son was he was captivated by their cameras. And one of them threw an entire rig on to him, and he went around and helped the production team. It was pretty cool. And now he has one of those expensive rigs, and he knows more about it than me, but we've tried to make it as much as a family business as possible. And what's really cool is we'll walk onto a farm, unlike another production team. We kind of know what we're looking at no matter where we go. We know something about hogs. We know something about cattle, so, yeah, that's a really special project that we've been working on. And I will say this, when Greg came to me about this, if I didn't believe in this project as being a benefit for the rural community, it's not something I would ever gotten behind. I mean, I put my national brand behind talking basically Greg's vision. I wrote an article in Ag Daily, which is as far as I know, the largest ag publication in the country, and said, if you do it like this will help rural community. So yeah, I mean, it's all around. I think it's a good project. I hope that the people of Henry County will listen, and if it's something that they just absolutely don't want, then it's probably something we need to listen to as well. But I think we're having another open house in mid-September, correct? Mm-hmm. So, and that will actually be in the Newcastle area. So I think we missed out on a lot of Newcastle folks at the last one because it was a Knightstown. And we can also do many pop-up ones or whatever we need to do so that we're making sure that we are talking to folks in the community.
Very good. We appreciate it very much. Mr. Zach, thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Surprise appearance.
Yeah.
You got any questions?
No, I was kind of, it's been interesting. I was like, I saw what it was. I was like, I'm kind of interested to see this because I've seen the Facebook ugliness side of it, which I get a little bit irritated with. The NIMBYism is real and around. So and I heard enough of the explanations about some of the stuff like power generation and water usage and stuff. And I'm thinking, I commute on 70, and I don't know that people are pushing back like the massive warehouses that keep getting built and like the Amazon warehouses. I don't know how much roads they're tearing up with those things, but they're shooting out like, I don't know how many thousands of van trips a day. So it's like, if this is something that's like some people are going to work at, they're going to make money. It's going to be quiet. It's not going to produce a bunch of noise. And I feel like, I could be wrong, this is me generalizing my home community. If Chrysler said they were going to build a transmission plant there, they would be screaming from the rooftops how happy they were, even though it would be big and loud and produce pollution, all other stuff. But we're all about production. We want to bring back.
Greg, have you thought about being Chrysler Development?
Yeah.
No, I have not.
Like,
no.
It's a weird thing where like people are like lament the loss of that kind of stuff. Well, this is kind of like, this is the way the United States is going in terms of what we can do and what the kinds of jobs we can create. And they're better jobs because you're not destroying people to do the jobs. Like back in the day, like most people, if you're around Newcastle enough, you know somebody that worked at Chrysler and probably is missing part of a finger from doing their job. So like yeah. So interesting.
How against like a large animal feeding operation, which could just be put on there now because it's zoned ag, would people be against? Because when we look at some agricultural endeavors, they can look extremely industrial.
I mean, as a community, we went through a big conversation and finally landed on a scoring system for animal feeding operations, because we had this political football. Anytime somebody wanted to put a hog farm in, or build a larger dairy operation in the community, you had a farmer that had to go around to all of the neighbors, make sure everybody was okay, and you, without a doubt, had 5 or 6 or 10 people that didn't want to be in an ag community, but they live in the middle of ag fields. So we developed a scoring system, and that's why I was asking the questions about, is this a county-wide, we're solving it, and this is what we have, or this is a site-by-site situation? Because the model that Henry County went with in probably 2015, 2010, I don't know, the years could have been 2007, I don't know. The years fly by in a hurry. But Rachel Connor was the zoning administrator at the time, and they developed a scoring system and said, hey, if you have this setback and this size parcel, then you've achieved 400 points, and you don't have to come before this board. You can just build your project. But you had to have the good neighbor things built into your plan so that you didn't have to come in, because land use becomes a political football, and we're really good at fighting each other over that every time.
Yeah.
And that's where I wanted to see what mechanisms are there. And it sounds like you guys have been doing your homework to get ahead of it. That's for the Henry County Gauntlet. You're doing a great job so far.
I will say the opposition, and we respect that. I mean, they have genuine, very, very, I mean, we validate everything that we understand what they're saying. That being said, they are working with a group that is not from Henry County, they're from Indianapolis. And if you look at that group, if you were trying to put up a hog barn, the same group would be the ones to protest you.
Yeah.
They have it right on their website, factory farms. Well, when I hear the word factory farm, what I hear is that's a family farm. 9 times out of 10, that's a family farm that you're attacking. It is not a factory farm. Factory farm was something invented by animal rights activists to try to quell the amount of meat that we eat in this country.
So the actual location of the parcel is it the southeast corner of 109 and 70?
It's the northwest corner.
Northwest.
Yeah,
the exact
northwest
opposite.
corner. Yep.
So it's essentially behind one of the truck stops.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Yeah.
There's a Speedway or 7-Eleven or whatever they are.
Yeah.
Which they both have some significant light pollution on their own.
Yeah. So it's next to a Burger King and a truck stop, right?
That's exactly right. Yep.
Oh, the Burger King's still open?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you wouldn't know driving by.
What else you got for me, Zach? Anything?
No. Good, successful first cross country meet. Slightly confusing course.
Did you guys win?
One of my runners won the boys race, and we had 3rd place and 6th place in the girls. We don't have no boys to score. But we were second out of, and it was a 3-way meet with Yorktown and Delta. Yorktown is a middle school is a little different. That's a powerhouse program in terms of their cross country program. We rolled in with our 9 kids, and they probably had 30, and Delta probably had 25. So we did pretty well for that. So I can't complain.
First one of how many meets in the next month?
11. Good God. Oh, wow.
Zach's attendance is going to be spotty. We're going to be jumping around a little bit between now and the cross country is over.
I've got another one tomorrow or Saturday, and then the next one's Thursday or whatever. So yeah, it's hot. We have more meets in the high school, and theirs are over the course of 8 weeks, and ours are in 4. So we're done October 1st. Last meet of the year is done October 1st. We have 11 meets in the
Very good. Greg, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
What have we forgotten? Did we cover it? Is there anything glaring that we needed to get to?
No, everything you asked is the same conversation we've been having with everyone else. So I think that, it's the topics that were on your mind is exactly what's the topics on everyone in the community. So I appreciate you giving us a chance to answer them for you so that everyone else can hear those answers. So thank you.
Very good. And if Henry County takes a pass, Bones, you want it in Rushville? Or
absolutely. No? Let's go for it.
He's in. He's the official ambassador for Rushville. So if you can't get it here, put it out on Airport Road down in Rushville.
Whoa. Not in my backyard.
Anything else? Anything we forgot?
For me?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm good.
All right. Thanks for inviting us to the concert last Saturday night.
It was good.
In Rushville.
Yeah. Thanks for coming.
So the surviving it was an Allman Brothers tribute band in Rushville. Rushville does a great job with their concerts.
Yes.
And I kept thinking they were talking about the living the Gospel of the Allman Brothers, whatever it is what the name of the cover brand. That's like their motto, which is like the Blues Brothers, and I'm a mission from God. But I kept sitting there, and every time the lead guy was talking about it, I kept thinking, the Neil Diamond Band,
Saving Sarah.
Saving Silverman.
Yeah.
That movie, I kept getting that vibe from these people, but they're completely serious about it, which is great. I enjoyed it. They
were awesome.
Thing. There was a guy that was actually from Rush County that plays in the band, but they've got people from all over the country, and they're based in Nashville, Tennessee. So give a shout out to Rushville. That's a great concert series they put on. I think they're going this weekend and then maybe one more in September. So they do a fantastic job. They got a Toby Keith band at Wilkie Days in September. And I think this weekend is Headbangers Ball or something along those lines.
Maybe.
Hair bands. I don't know.
Give me 2 seconds.
All right. With that, I think we're back Wednesday is our plan next week. Sure. We're all over the place. I think we're doing Wednesday next week.
Okay.
Do we have a plan? No. But, we didn't have a plan this week. It turned out okay.
We're efforting.
Yeah, we're efforting. We're winging it. We'll be okay. Big Labor Day. IndyCar Championship this weekend. Alex Plow is going to win he did win the championship.
They're going to give him last race of the season.
They're going to give him a trophy. The Colts appear to have had a bit of a problem this with their PR today. Breaking news.
I think this is a hit piece. This is terrible.
Jim Irsay.
Washington Post, though. I mean,
the national news is covering it.
Okay, so it's he OD'd twice in 2023 and used ketamine.
Yeah, he OD'd 3 times, and his final days were spent at a $25,000 a night hotel in a hospital bed in Beverly Hills.
You know what though?
Under the care of his doctor. With ketamines.
I think I said this before when he passed away. Guy had demons, but
he had a 2-year relapse that finally ended.
But
they wrote all of the rough stories today.
But you can hear all kinds of crazy stories about how generous of a guy he was, and so there are people I know people personally that have demons. They're fighting battles that people don't understand. I don't understand. Like, I don't even consume caffeine or whatever. But was he hurting other people? No, as long as you didn't get him in his car too often. He's doing. I think it was his wife though that got arrested for doing like 95 in a Porsche or whatever. Who cares? Like, he's dead. Like, good for these reporters. I'm glad that all the problems that we have in the world today, and they're doing a hit piece on a dead guy.
Yeah, that's my problem. You guys are a second-rate news organization out the Indy Star.
Oh, this is not the Indy Star.
This is
The Washington Post. They copy pasted it.
So it's even more liberal bullshit.
All right, Bones. I was just trying to buy you time to come up with your thing. You said, give me a second. So I gave 2 quick stories.
There is a concert this Saturday.
All right.
Headbangers Ball.
Yep.
But this is bullshit. Irsay was a net positive for this community.
Yes.
This did not need to come out. He was a net positive for Indianapolis. If he's a 1 or a 0, it's a 1. Are there problems? Yes.
Okay. All right. I'll leave it at this, and then we'll be done with the show. I got a feeling the guy was asleep at the wheel for the last couple of years, and maybe that's why we've won 7 to 9 games and haven't made a change in leadership for a while.
He's the owner. He's not the GM.
Well, that's the problem. Is the guy in charge?
Well, then let's go after Ballard.
All right. Well, yeah. But the guy that could have fired him wasn't. He was busy.
And you wait till the final moments of the show, and you get Bones fired.
Listen, he drove all the way out here. I wanted to get him worked up. This guy drafted 4 wide receivers in a row in fantasy football to start the season.
It was my first time ever playing fantasy football. You guys said
you're already better than
receivers are good. All right?
Yeah. All right. Thanks for being here. Now you're live.
Done. Fuck this. Let's go home.
See you guys Wednesday.